Hello, my beautiful audience. I should say, our beautiful audience.
Oh, thank you for including me in that.
Today, we are going to talk about more sex and better connection with your partner.
Such a great topic.
Oh, yes. I'm getting all stimulated just thinking about it.
Calm down over there.
All right, so today we're going to talk about how do you improve the connection with your partner? How do you make your relationship great and take it to the next level as a team?
Mm-hmm.
First, let's dive into communication.
Yeah, that's the biggest.
It is the one factor that makes the biggest difference. Because if you hide things, things go wrong. If you are open, things go right. So when it comes to communication with you and your partner, you always want to make sure that you are clear about what you need in a relationship. Whether it's in the beginning when you start dating, or actually that's when it should happen, or later down the road if something changes about what you want out of life or what you want out of your relationship, you need to bring it to the table. If you keep it hidden, the other person doesn't know what you need.
Right. And I think when we don't communicate right from the beginning, maybe, I think when you're dating someone, or at least as you start to get a little more serious, that's when you really want to make sure that you communicate with each other. Because if you don't understand what the other person needs, a level of anxiety, I think, and fear sort of can creep into the relationship. And then you sort of stay in that holding pattern. Like, oh my God, what if I say this? What if he doesn't like me anymore? Or what if he leaves me? Or what if he walks out? Or, versus having a dialogue around something that's not emotional, but more, logical or calm. Versus like an argument or waiting till things get to a level and then you just blow up and lose it.
Exactly. And, that was a good point you brought up where
Thank you.
It's sometimes easier said than done, but don't be afraid to not scare someone off, but to say something that might be off-putting to them. Because the more upfront you are, the easier you make it for both of you. If you do what many people do, which is put on the mask in the beginning.
Right.
Oh, I'm perfect. I don't do anything. Like, guys, we don't fart. And the girls don't do it either. And, it's all sunshine and rainbows. And then you guys either move in together or get more serious. And then the real you comes out. You want to make sure they know what they are getting from day one. And that you know what you're getting from day one.
Right. And you shouldn't compromise because I don't know if men, I can't speak for men, but I know women will do this where we'll compromise what we want just, again, out of fear, of like, well, what if I don't find somebody else? And what if this is all there is? Or what if this is the best? And I better not say this, or I better not show how I feel about something. Or, there's so many topics that people just will avoid, or things that, women want out of a relationship and won't say anything. So you have to be authentic. You have to be yourself, because wouldn't you rather find out in the beginning that the person's not right for you versus 20 years down the road when you've wasted time on something that you knew in your heart all along wasn't right?
Mm-hmm. And that's what I call one of syndrome, what Linda mentioned, where you're afraid that you're not going to find anyone else.
Right.
Oh, no, what if this is the one I was supposed to be with?
Right.
The reality is, I'm a believer that there is several people out there that we are compatible with. It's a matter of timing and who fits into your lifestyle. If you're a person with a mission, you've got a lot going on, and the other person just doesn't fit into your story, yes, it might be upsetting, but it's better if you let the person go. It's just like at a job. Do you have an employee who is just not qualified for the position and you keep them around because you feel bad? Well, they have to pay rent, or do you say, you know what, it's better that I fire them and let them go so they can go to a place that they're going to thrive,
right.
Then we can get the right person and they are happier with their life.
Right.
You do no favors for anyone by trying to hold on to a relationship that's just not for you. And
if you're not content within yourself before you enter into a relationship, it's not going to work, because the relationship with yourself has to be solid first before you can enter into a joint venture with somebody else. If you don't accept yourself the way you are and accept the things that you need and want and desire and are honest with yourself, it's going to be hard to get into a relationship and be honest and show that person what it is that you need as an individual. You're not going to be able to if you don't accept it yourself first.
That's so true.
self-talk and taking care of yourself is important.
It's like if you want to give someone a ride in your car, but your car is just so unsafe, doesn't have a seatbelt, the door is off on the passenger side, is that a safe vehicle for you to take you and your friend on this journey with? No. You want to make sure your vehicle works properly so that you can accommodate a partner. Right? And you also want to be clear about what you will not tolerate. Now, I've had friends who have gotten married knowing good and well it was a terrible relationship. We had talked in private and they're like, yeah, they're this way, but when we get together, I think they'll change. And me,
that's never happens,
being one of the few that supported them as just a friend and not necessarily wanting to, so to speak, pee in their Cheerios, I was like, listen, you know what? If you think this is right, then go ahead. Because at the end of the day, you're going to learn from experience. And fortunately, and I say this fortunately because it could have gone on longer and ended up as something terrible, but they got divorced within a year. And I knew it was going to happen, but he learned. And now they're with people that they actually love. And, plus back to what I mentioned about being clear about what you won't tolerate. Things like verbal abuse, things like laziness, the things that someone might creep in slowly.
Right.
You terrible job at that, or no one's gonna love you like I do, or no one's going to appreciate you if you do this. Right? These little sort of digs they take at you that you think, oh, it's nothing. Make a point to mention the little things that irritate you, that when you sweep under the rug, eventually once enough dust gets under there, it makes a bump and your relationship trips over those bumps.
Right, and that's when you get to that boiling point where you don't want to get to that boiling point, because then that's just, so many things can be avoided if you just deal with one-ons as they come. So, like in using us as an example. The other day when we were in the car and a song came on that I liked at one point, and you made a face and made like, oh, I would never like that song. And I said, you know what? And even though I did know you were joking, but it bothered me. And I said to you, I didn't appreciate that comment, and you apologized and said it was just a joke. So, but I mean, the point is that it's those kind of little things that people let pile up until something happens and then they blow up. So where you apologize, I'm like, okay, cool, and we're done with it. You know what I mean? Versus like, oh, I can't. All day long you're thinking about it, and I'm mad because he said it. It's like, just tell him that it bothered you.
Exactly.
And we're over it.
Yeah, and this is where I'm going to do a little calling out right now. And men are responsible too, but it stands out of my mind, ladies, when your man asks you what's wrong, don't say fine. Please, for all of us men, don't say fine. Fine is the cop-out. Fine means there's a whole lot of stuff going on, and you got to come over here and dig down to find it.
Well, that's a cry for it. Being a female, women do that because it's a cry for attention. They want the man to be like, baby, what's wrong? Tell me what's wrong. Well, and it's a cry for attention versus just saying what's wrong and working it out.
Which would be so much easier.
It would be so much easier. And, and it's as a woman, it's easy to do sometimes, so it's just how we're wired. But, you have to, and I know for myself, you have to make a conscious effort not to do that stuff. It's way too easy to just fall into those easy pitfalls as females. We have to make a conscious effort to not do that. Say, well, you know what? You just said something that really hurt my feelings. Well, what was it? Well, it was this. Oh my God, I didn't mean it that way, or I'm sorry, or texting. Texting is a perfect example of that. If your guy texts you something and you're not sure how to read it, ask or call them on the phone. I've seen too many relationships go down through texting wars, which I think is a huge waste of time.
Yes.
Huge.
It's and speaking to the men, we need to take the time to understand where our women are coming from. So when something happens, man, you might have just not emptied the dishwasher, or you didn't take the garbage out, and she blows up. I can't believe blah, blah, blah. And in your head, men, you're like, what is the big deal? It's not that big a deal. But the reality is, more often than not, there's something underlying.
Yeah.
So
it's
my recommendation to you men, because I do this myself and I had to learn the hard way, and I've read the books and spoken to the people and learned from men who are much more seasoned than I am in making relationships work. And you've got to sit them down and ask, baby, what's going on? Tell me what's on your mind. What's bothering you? Don't leave anything out. And then shut up. Because as men, we are fixers. Oh, well, that's not a big deal. Just do this. No. Don't tell her what to do. Just open the space for her to speak to you so she feels comfortable speaking to you more in the future. If you shove ideas down her throat and try to fix things, she's going to clam up and not going to want to tell you things going forward. So open the air, let her speak, and then try to come to a common understanding.
Right. It's good when two people can sit down and one person can say how they're feeling about a situation, and then let the partner have the floor. Like then the other person gets to rebut. So if someone is trying to tell you how they feel about something, don't, interrupt or be like, oh, no, don't do that. Like, let them have their say. And then your partner say, okay, you have the floor now. Speak back to me, or, say what you want to say, and listen, like really listen versus interrupt or not let the person finish. I think that's really important, to be able to sit down and do that, to share how you feel and say, okay, Christian, now you have the floor now. I told you how I feel. What do you want to say? Oh, okay. And then, it's much better to let each person speak, hear me out, then speak.
Exactly.
It goes to listening. You really want to make sure you listen. It's so important that you listen.
One of the most impactful statements that I learned from what I call a superior man, and this is a man that understands the dynamic between men and women, how to make a successful relationship, how to show love and how to receive love. And they said that you want to listen to understand, not just listen to reply, right? So you want to listen with a mind, let me receive this information and process it. What are they really trying to tell me? Rather than, I'm just going to be quiet for a couple seconds so then I can inject what I need to say because I feel like I'm right. Understanding is the solution to a lot of issues. Mm-hmm. And if you don't understand, say that. I'm not really sure. Right. How do you mean? Explain it further, please. And I'm sure the other person would love to do that because you guys both want to be on the same page. You both got into the relationship for a reason.
Right.
Now that you're in it, and you might be past the honeymoon stage where it's all sunshine and rainbows, right? And now it's all about really getting to know each other and understanding each other and making this thing work. So give them the time they need to explain what they need, and then respond accordingly.
Yeah, and it's also how you package the message too. So, and just from myself, from going to therapy and working on issues that I've had over the years, and the way you talk to someone versus saying, well, you did this or you did that, like that puts the other person right away on the defensive, and then it becomes more of a heated discussion. When you could just say, today you said this and it made me feel like this, or the action that you took made me feel like this, and talk about it from a standpoint of how you felt versus pointing a finger or putting someone on the defensive right away, and charging them with something. Talk about how your experience was and what it made you feel like, because then you can have a dialogue around that if the person doesn't feel so attacked. Like, you don't want your partner to feel like you're attacking them and everything's all their fault, because usually it takes two to tango. So you got to deliver the message in the right packaging too, if you want to have, a successful, logical, calm discussion.
Yes. You catch more bees with honey than you do vinegar. So make your words sound sweet, but be honest.
Nobody wants to feel like it's all your fault, because right away you're on the defensive, and then you're going to just start defending yourself versus discussing what the issue is.
So next, non-negotiables. Now, this is a list of things that are your musts, right? Now, these, no one else knows and no one else can tell you what they are. These are the list of things that you make for yourself that you will not compromise on. And that could be fitness. You might be a person that values a fit lifestyle like we do, right? We want someone who takes care of themselves, who values their body, and treats it like a temple. It could be personal growth goals. You might say, you know what, I need someone with goals. If they're just going to be lazy and sit on the couch and play video games and just not do anything or show any initiative, or I always got to ask you to take the garbage out, you want someone who is driven. That might be one of your non-negotiables. And if the person that you're dating does not display those, and, you bring it up also, hey, is there anything that you're passionate about or working on? And if they're not, then maybe this isn't the person for you. But these are the things that you need to get in the air and discuss in the beginning so you know what you're getting into. The other thing is kids. At a certain point in a relationship, you need to speak about, because it's a thing that a lot of people want and some people don't.
It's a huge deal.
Yes, and sometimes you might think this person's perfect, but at a certain point they might want kids. And if they're not willing to give them to you, then you might need to find someone else. And sometimes that's hard to deal with. And it's even harder to deal with if you get 10 years in a relationship and then you say, babe, I want to have kids. And they're like, I'm sorry, I just don't feel the same way.
Right.
Think about all the time you spent with this person building a life, and now you have to fracture it.
Yeah, that's a huge thing right there. You have to have that discussion beforehand, because even if you marry someone, male or female, if the guy thinks, oh, she'll change her mind, or the woman thinks, oh, he'll change his mind, or I'll just let myself get pregnant, like that's just not good scenarios. Because if a woman did that and then she lets herself get pregnant, then that's deceitful and dishonest, and that's not cool in a relationship. And you need to discuss that, because someone may not change their mind, and then what? I mean, if it's something that you really want, that's a big deal. That's a huge deal breaker right there. So
exactly. And just like the priest says on the altar, when two people get married, you must accept this person as they are. Take them as they are. Mm-hmm. Don't get into a relationship and expect them to change. And this happens very often. I've had several friends that have gotten married, and they said to me, oh, I think they'll change. Get into a relationship assuming that person will stay exactly how they are. And again, this is where asking them about their goals, their aspirations. Hey, what's the vision that you have for the rest of your life or our life, right? If you're mm-hmm. several months or a year in, however long, where do you see us going? And if they're like, well, I'm not really sure, then that's the time when you want to bring up that you've got a vision. And I have these ambitions, and I'm thinking about this. And if they're not on the same page, and that that's going to be upsetting to you, you might want to consider finding a new person to get in a relationship with.
I think also, after you've dated someone several times, I mean, I don't have an exact number, but I think you get a feel for whether or not the person's right for you. And because you'll see, you see how they live, like when you go to their place, or you meet some of their friends, and you see the kind of people they surround themselves with, or you meet their family and you see what their family values are, or even for women, like how a man treats his mother, like that's always a good sign, like to just, so I think there's a lot of things like that you can look around and see about the person, before you even get to a point of whether you're going to, be exclusive or get married or move in together or whatever it is. I think there are a lot of signs, there are a lot of road signs along the way that sometimes people just don't look at or avoid because they'll know things about a person. So I think it's also important, like I said before, to have an honest dialogue within yourself and notice things and not be afraid to say, hey, you know what? I don't think this person might be for me. And, and then be strong enough to pull the plug if that's the case. I mean, that's my opinion, but I think for me personally, I'd rather be on my own and have a good, honest relationship with myself versus being in a relationship that is completely not something that I want just to be in a relationship. Because over time, it's not going to work. It's just over time, it's just going to burn out.
Exactly. And
there's no way around it. And we see it, you and I talk about this all the time. We see it. And lots of people, our friends, clients, whatever, you see relationships that have probably passed their expiration date. But, there's a lot of factors that go into it. Children, finances, things, that people hang on for reasons other than that they want to be there.
Yeah. And that brings us to the next topic, which is trust. Now, this is one of the pillars that every single relationship stands on or doesn't, depending on if you actually have it. Every relationship is rooted in trust.
Oh, yes.
Now, trust is something that you both have to bring to the table. You have to create it, you have to expect it, and if you want it, you have to give it. So, the first thing I encourage you, men and women, pay attention to your gut feelings. Now, whatever gut feelings are, it's just this thing that's in us that we feel, intuition, for women and men, it's the gut feelings, and I just get a vibe. Those vibes were put there in our biology to keep us safe and to guide us in the right direction. So if you're with a man or you're with a woman and you feel like something's just not right, or I think they're hiding something from me, and I'm not talking about when you're getting crazy and you see them like something on Instagram and, oh my God, that's ridiculous, you must be cheating. But you actually feel a true just lack of trust. Bring it forward. And when you bring it forward, you'll also learn about the person. How do they react? Mm-hmm. Oh, that's ridiculous. I can't believe, if someone's really being honest with you, they'll probably be calm about it.
Right.
If they're a person that understands good communication.
True.
And in order to receive trust, you must give it. Meaning, if you expect someone, guys, if you're going to go out with your buddies, right? You tell your girlfriend, hey, I'm going to go out with the boys, and you're just going to go out to the bar, have a couple drinks. The woman might say, hey, babe, go out, have a great time. I'll see you when you get back. I love you.
Right.
And then you might go to the inverse. Oh, she's like, I'm going to go out with the girls. What do you mean you're going to go out with the girls? Where are you going to go? Well, we're going to go to this club and just dance with each other. Well, I'm not okay with that because there's probably going to be guys there. And so now you're creating a double standard, or you're creating a lack of trust because she thinks that you think she's not trustworthy of being out with her friends. Then there might be temptation there. This is another aspect that is reality, right? When men go out to a bar, there's going to be other women there. They might see someone walk by them that is attractive. That is biology. That is life. That's reality. And they might look, but the reality is look and don't touch, right? The same thing with women. As good as you might think your partner is for you and how much they love you, there's other attractive people. You're not the only attractive person in the world. So somebody might walk by and they might notice while they're out with their girlfriends, as long as they look and don't touch, right? You can't expect them to be this preacher's daughter martyr, like, oh, so perfect. You're the only one that's attractive to me. There's no one else in the world. They might tell you that, but you got to be realistic.
Yep.
And you have to be okay with the fact that that may be a thing, but don't let that deter your trust. Trust is, I know there is opportunities and other things you could be doing, but you choose to be with me and you choose to be honest.
Yes. And in a note to that too, because, it's easy to let jealousy creep in. That's why you have to sort of nip it in the bud and talk about these things if they come up. Like, I don't know if it's that scenario of he's going out with his friends and she feels jealous. She could say that to him. You know what I feel, and he can reassure her in some way, and that's good. Or vice versa. Look, honey, I'm going out with my girls. We just focus. We want to have girl talk. We're going to hang out, have fun. Okay, alleviate the fear, because it happens. Even in the best of relationships, jealousy can creep in. The issue becomes if you let jealousy destroy your relationship and you don't discuss it. And then it depends on how solid the relationship is too. Like the man and the woman have to have, again, good communication, which is why we're doing this podcast, and good respect and love for each other so that you feel the love from the other person. There's affection, there's hugs, there's kisses during the day, there's messages that I love you. You know what I mean? Like the relationship is fed the nutrients that it needs. Like we feed our bodies the fuel that it needs. You've got to feed your relationship and give the other person what they need. The affection, the love, the attention, the caring, the consideration, all those things. And when those things, I think, are present and your partner wants to go off on a vacation with friends or go out for the few hours and have a few beers, it's not a big deal because the other person is secure and it's like, okay, you're going to go do that. I'm going to either go see my friends or I'm going to stay home and read a book, or there's this movie that I wanted to watch, or, you know what I mean? And then when they rejoin, it's no big deal. So you have to feed your relationship no matter what the scenario is. You've got to give put your relationship in good soil, so to speak, so that it's getting what it needs. Because then I think jealousy, even if it does creep in a little bit, we're only human, it can be alleviated and it's not a big deal. So
definitely. And you have to live with full disclosure. Mm-hmm. And that's for yourself and for them. You do no favors for yourself or your partner to not express your feelings, express what you want, your desires. And the same thing, expect that from them. I expect you to be honest with me. If I ask you a question, tell me everything.
Right.
Don't omitting, depending on the scenario, can be the same as lying because you're trying to save face or just leave something out that they might get upset at. Right.
And it's a lousy way to live. It's a lousy way to live in a relationship that has jealousy or trust issues. It's a crappy way to live.
Definitely. And that brings me to the next which is a love language. Right now, this is a book that I read, The 5 Love Languages, I believe it is.
Yes, it
and this could be a whole episode on it by itself. So we're just going to touch on this real quick. And that's, you got to take the initiative to ask your partner what they want, right? And also express what you want. And that could be, some partner might want time with you, right? That might be the thing that they value more than anything. Some like gifts. Some want to travel. Some want intimacy and touching and hugging. Some are okay with just a hug every now and then. Some want a kiss. Some want, but in order for you to know this, you have to ask, and you've got to be aware. When you hug your partner, when you kiss your partner, what do they seem to like most, right? You might be a busy man, and this happens so often with a lot of my male clients. They're always on the road. They're traveling around the world for business. Hey, babe, I'm going to be away for 2 weeks. Okay, love you, and they keep communication over text. And he comes back and he gives her a gift, right? He gives her some flowers or buys her a bracelet. Oh, I'm going out to the bar. I'm going to, hey, babe, can we spend some time together? Yeah. We'll get to that. I'm just really busy. I got to make sure I see this person.
Prioritize.
Exactly. And you keep sending gifts, but you don't give your precious time, which is the only thing they want from you. They don't care about the gift. They don't care about the cars. They don't care about the travel. Right. They want you. And if you don't know that, that could be the destruction of your relationship.
Absolutely.
So it's important to sit down and ask. Take the initiative. Hey, babe, what do you want from me? What can I do to be a better partner for you? Is it more time you'd like to spend? Is it, do you like, when I get you those gifts, how does that make you feel? Do you like that? And there's your answer. There's no guessing.
Right. It all comes down to that one word, communication. And you have to be able to express that without fear and feel comfortable doing that. Because a lot of people live in fear, even in their relationships. And they don't want to say things. So
exactly. And the last juicy topic is sex. The one thing that so many don't like to talk about, but that we all do or want. Now, this is another thing that can make or break relationships. It should make it. And you've got to, just like with the love language, find out what your partner likes. And whatever they want, give it to them. If you love them, you can ask, hey, babe, what is it? Role play? Is it frequency? How many times a week would you like us to have sex?
Right. That's always an issue. That's usually an issue in relationships.
Exactly. And again, with these same male clients that I have that are traveling all the time, you don't get a lot of time with your wife. So when you're home, she wants you.
Right.
Wants you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
or vice versa.
Exactly. And again, half the battle is taking the initiative to ask, babe, do you feel like we have sex often enough? Do you enjoy our sex? And more often than not, a woman, if you give her the space to speak, she's going to tell you. Men, she's going to tell you, yeah, I do, but let's do a little more spontaneity. It could be having sex in the park at night when no one's around. Who knows? But you've got to ask and create the space for them to tell you what they really like, because sex is a very intimate thing. And
it's important for a relationship to thrive, because it's such a level of connection that you don't have in any other part of your relationship.
Exactly. And if it's one of those things that if you don't use it, you lose it. And what I mean is the desire for it. It's if you go a while without it and you sort of brush it under the rug and you turn into one of those terrible situations where it's like, oh, it's your birthday, I guess I got to give you, some oral sex, or all right, it's the anniversary, okay. And it's almost like a chore, which it just, even saying it makes me, ugh.
I know.
Like, it's, having sex under those circumstances where you don't even want to do it is just terrible.
No, it's not enjoyable. It's a task. And you want to, it shouldn't be that way, and then, or worse, people start cheating because they're not fulfilled at home. So they go looking outside of the relationship, and then that's a whole nother problem. So.
Exactly. And this is where, again, I've got friends who have suffered from this. They're on the road all the time. The wife gets lonely. I've had friends in the military, unfortunately. They're out and doing tours, maybe in Afghanistan or wherever it is, and their wife happens to have that love language where they want time. And yes, they promise to be dedicated, but sometimes when you're away, it's too much.
Yeah.
And this is where you need to find out what your partner needs. If that partner needs your time and you can't give it to him,
Right.
you might need to find a new partner.
Yeah, that might not be a good relationship to enter into if someone's going to be away a lot.
Exactly. And
That
again,
might not be ideal.
like I mentioned, give your partner what they want. If they say they want role play, be open to it. Of course, if they bring up something you're completely not comfortable with, clamps and electricity, maybe you can try to come to some other
Well,
compromise.
it all depends. Who knows what people do behind closed doors? But
Yeah, exactly.
you got to be on the same page.
Exactly. But making some compromises where, you know what, I'm gonna try something new because it really makes them happy, or this is something I know they love, so we're gonna do it. And it'll probably end up being fun anyway, because if you really love the person, you love to see them satisfied and pleasured. And that, I mean, for me, that's half of the excitement, is seeing the other person excited and happy and pleasured. And then they give you even deeper love because you've gone outside of your comfort zone to give them something that they really desired.
Exactly. Yeah, it's important. It's really important. I think the bottom line, I think, to wrap up is you just have to communicate, and you have to be on the same page in every aspect of your relationship.
Exactly.
And if you don't do that, things will suffer over time, and it's just going to compound over time. And it's just really, really important. You can't stress it enough.
Yeah. And the final idea for me is, men, courtship never stops. Just because there was a time when you started dating doesn't mean that the same actions you took then should fall by the wayside. Surprise your wife. Take her on dates, and she doesn't know. You show up at the house, honey, I need you ready in 30 minutes. I want you to wear this.
Well, maybe an hour.
Or an hour. Okay, that's true. That's true. The hair,
we need a little more time than 30 minutes.
the hair needs to get done. But I want you to dress like this. I'm not going to tell you where we're going. Just be ready at this time. And that's amazing. Some women, oh my God, this is so exciting. I don't know where I'm going. And then she sees her girlfriends on Monday. You wouldn't believe what happened. Right? And that keeps the fun. That keeps the spontaneity. Bring her home roses or chocolate. Why? Just because. Right? Do the dishes. Do the laundry. Do the things that she always asks you to do, but without you asking.
Yep.
And
it goes a long way.
So I encourage you to communicate, surprise your wife, and have more sex.
Sounds good to me.
See you next time.